We're here with Rosie Rivera again. You had heard, what was it, about
2015, I think?
Yeah. About 4 years ago when I had just moved to Miami. I actually interviewed her in Miami, and now we're back in LA, and we're doing an interview with Rosie, who surprisingly has a new book. Yes. And the last time that I interviewed her was also for a book. So
for my first book.
I want you to tell me, the first book was about your broken pieces.
Right. It was called My Broken Pieces. It's basically my story, you know. It's weird to say memoir because I'm only 37, but you know, sometimes you can live a lot in a few years, and I had lived a lot with sexual abuse and DV, and I really felt the story needed to be told, and a lot of people loved it. They were touched by it. They could at least identify with me and say, ooh, it did affect me, because sometimes we go through things and we think, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, it was so long ago. But with my book, I needed people to realize, like, if you don't deal with it, it's going to continue to affect your present.
Whole life,
So the question was, ¿y ahora qué? Like, thanks, you know, and now what do I do? So I wrote another book called Take Your Power Back. And it's basically 12 steps of what you do to heal. Because any type of abuse, whether it's psychological, physical, spiritual, emotional, is an abuse of power. Someone that has a position above you, whether physical or influence in your life, and they take advantage of it. So for sexual abuse, that's what it usually is. And they take your power, and then you forget who you are, and you don't know if you can live your dreams, and you don't know if you could have a healthy relationship. They take your voice. So I really want men and women and children, everyone that's gone through this, to really get their power back in every sense of the word.
And that's what this book is for, and it's called Take Your Power Back?
Yes.
Is this book available now, or is it in pre-order? Or
No, it's available now. Kindle is in pre-order, but the physical, I don't know, I work like that on Amazon.com. But yes, it's available now, and it's going to come with the workbook. So I want people to read it and then do it. Sometimes I see as people, when you're dealing with something so difficult, you can think about it but not really take the steps. And I think we have to do the homework. And something that I thought, and I say a lot, is the injustice wasn't your fault. Like, it wasn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal. It really is. And sometimes we want it to drop from heaven, or we're entitled, or we feel like it wasn't my fault, so why should I pay for it? You know what? For you, for your kids, for your relationship, for your peace, for your future, you gotta deal with it. And it's not gonna be pretty, and it's not the easiest thing, but I promise you it's worth it. And I just bundled it up in a book because I took about 15 years to heal. Wow. And I want people to take less. Like, really, really, you can do it, and obviously take your time on your own pace, but the workbook is also on Amazon.com.
Now, what would you say was the number one step in order for you to start healing?
Community, which is difficult. I mean, the biggest, most difficult step is speaking up. But then after you speak up, you think everything's gonna be fine, and no, you just opened up a can of worms. I mean, your family, it's not gonna be pretty, and I don't like to lie to you. It's not gonna be like, oh, they all understand and they believe you. Sometimes they won't. It can sometimes be more difficult. That's why you have to be ready to speak up and tell the right person. Someone that's gonna take a step for you, not someone that's gonna feel sorry for you or be ashamed of it. I told the right person, thank God, because she made a police report that day. I didn't want to. She did, and I thank her for that. That's the most difficult step, but the most important step, I think, is community, because we want to be strong. We're so used to being strong, and I've done this my whole life, and I've dealt with this my whole life, and I don't need anyone. And although it's great to be strong, I think you need to be vulnerable with someone and say, you know what, I'm having a bad day, or the community of your partner. Like, this is about sex, so how are you going to have a partner and not deal with this in community? Usually we want to deal with it on our own. And Abel, he even wrote a chapter in the book, was essential. We really had to recreate new memories, basically.
And that's what I was going to ask you. One of the questions that I had was, how do you, I guess for you, how was it? Were you completely healed by the time that you met him? Or was it something that you realized you had to work together as well?
I thought so. I really thought so. I had done part of the process. Healing is always a process, and it's not pretty. But I had started practicing abstinence, waiting for my husband. I was about 3 or 4 years into abstinence, and then Abel and I fell, is what we call. I'm a Christian, and we're open about it because we want to help you. We fell, and then we decided to not do it anymore because it just didn't feel right. So after that, we had a whole nother year of nothing, right? When we get married, we start having sex, and the first few months are great, and then I start backtracking. Like, I used to cry, I used to scream, I used to get mad at him. I hated him with the same passion that I used to hate my abuser. Wow. And he never did anything to me. Abel's a real chill guy, really romantic. He was just confused. He was like, you don't like me? Is it me? So I was so hurt that he was hurt. Like, no, baby, I love you. And then he's like, then. So we had to really go through another part of the healing process together, the actual sexual part, which most of us don't want to deal with. But I'm telling you, it's been 7 years. It took a little bit. It took a little bit of work. We took counseling. We had a lot of deep, difficult conversations. I had to specifically tell him things that would either gross me out or take me, and we recreated those specific things. So it's very intentional, and then it drew us closer together, and I think we're better than ever before. And I don't know if I would have healed like this had I married someone else that wasn't willing to put in the work.
So you were talking about the chapter that he wrote in this book. Was that something that maybe you asked him to, or was it something that he nació de él de cierta manera?
No, yo le pregunté. I mean, he doesn't feel like he's a writer. He doesn't even like to read, to be honest with you. But I said, you know what, babe, you've just done such a great job. I think other people need help, because the one question I get a lot is, ¿Cómo le ayudo a mi hija? What do I do with my wife? What do I do with my husband? I get that question more than help me. It's usually your family member that's looking for help for you. And they don't know how to do it. So I said, Abel, I can't explain that. You have to. And that's chapter 11, loving her through it all. Or loving her through it, and he just showed people how he just loves me in all my stages, in my bad, in my good, in my traumas, and now in my healing. And I think it's an exceptional chapter that he wrote that can really help other people, because they're in the battle with us. Sometimes they're in a blind battle because people don't want to tell their spouse, they don't want to tell their parents, so they're just wondering, like, ¿y esta qué trae? Like, ahorita está mal, ahorita está bien. Especially your spouse that you're gonna have relationships with, they're like, you know. So I know it's hard, but when you're ready, please tell them, and believe me, you're not gonna fight that battle alone anymore. Abel really would pick me up when I was having
And I think that it's also really essential, not only telling your pareja, but I think them, which is exactly what you said, them knowing what to do, because then it's like, what do I do? Like, what do I tell her? What am I supposed to do? Like, do I leave her? Or does
she need space,
exactly,
or does she need a hug?
Exactly. So I think that chapter is very essential also, which is really good that you included it, because I think a lot of people are in that situation where they don't know what this person is going through, because maybe they've never gone through it, or they don't know what to do, or like you said, should I hug her? Should I push her away? Should I give her space? Should I leave her alone? Or should I, bring her with me, closer to me, what to do? Right. So I think it's really essential that that you included that. Now, what about your family? What part has your family played in that role in your healing?
My sister believing me automatically was a game changer, because your whole life you fear, what if they don't believe me? It's literally my word against his. So them believing me was essential. When the family doesn't believe you, it can do so really much damage. It can do, I've been to psychologists, counselors, they say it can be the same level of damage, not because the sin is the same against you, but because the responsibility or the love, what you expect from your mom, is so much more than your cuñado or whoever did it to you. So them believing me and taking a stand and saying, we're gonna make a police report and we're gonna be with you. And when I was doing badly, because I wish I could tell you that at 16 I told and then I went up. No, I went straight down. I started drinking and smoking, and just like it became really tough. But at least they knew. So when I was having into drugs, yes, they'd scold me, but at the same time they're like, but we know there's a root. Where it was coming from. So how do we get this root out? So it really helped to feel less judged and more understood, even when they didn't agree with my actions.
And was that like your number one fear, telling your sister?
Yeah,
I would think so, because if she does, because you're like, if she doesn't believe me, then nobody will.
Exactly.
And then and it's
like, if I hurt her, get me, because her husband had already hurt her, but this is her sister. And then I didn't want my mom to hurt. I'm like, no, what's my mom gonna do? Like, I knew my mom would believe me for some reason, but I didn't want her to be hurt. You're like protecting everyone else. You're a 9-year-old thinking, I gotta save my sister's life. I gotta protect my mom's heart. My brother's gonna be crazy and kill him. So no one's a savior. You're not a savior at 9. You're not a savior at 25. You didn't break up your family. Someone else's act did. That's what I like to tell people. So speaking up at your own time and at your own pace, no one can rush you, is really, really essential.
Do you get a lot of, I would imagine so, do you get a lot of messages from women? Like on social media? Because I've seen the comments as well on your posts. But I would think that, yeah.
I can't. I really can. I wish I could. I'd love to. But then how do you do it in a DM?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's, like, you go back and forth, and I wish I could call everyone. And so I'm gonna start webinars where we do the workbook together. I thought, how can I do this? Because look, if I've done conferences and some wives can't go, because how are they going to tell their husbands, está hablando Rosie Rivera de qué, de abuso sexual, y para qué tienes que ir tú, get me? So in this book, there's nothing about sexual abuse. It says it a little bit in the back, but you can have this on your nightstand and they won't know what it's about. It's a self-help book. So if you're not ready to tell your partner yet, you don't have to. So what I thought is, like, I want to do something underground. I'm going to do webinars where a girl or a guy could click on the webinar and do the work 1 a.m. when their kids are sleeping, when their husband's asleep. You're not being sneaky. You're just doing it at your own pace and at your own time. So that's how I'm gonna do. That's how I really want to help people, because I cannot keep up.
It's a lot. I imagine that it's a lot, and I feel like you want to help everyone. And the thing is that every story is different because they're telling you different scenarios and different, stories. And it's like you said, like, you can only do so much over a DM. Like, sometimes you need to have a full-blown conversation about the specific situation that they're in or that they went through. So I think that these webinars will help.
And I think sometimes we know the answer already. We just need to be guided to it. So the questions that I did in the book and in the workbook will guide you to be able to be like, because my question is, if you're going to tell, who would you tell? I obviously don't know their family members, but I give them, like, who do you trust? Who will do something for you? Who will listen to you? Who will believe you? Find that person. And then they're like, oh, it's my cousin. Get me? Rather than my mom. And then my cousin can come help me tell my mom. So you already know the answer. It's deep inside you. It's just boggled with pain and anger, which is all valid. But I want to clear all that mess up to get you through your answers.
Now, the book is in Spanish and English, right?
Yes.
And it'll be it's already available. Now, tell me, are you going to be having any community events with girls when it launches? Or?
Yes. Well, then I'm also having my conferences again. So if you're willing to go to a public space, then go. By all means, if you just say, I'm going to church. I'm going, I'll go anywhere, really. I've gone to juvenile halls. I've gone to women's, jails. I'll go anywhere. I've gone to middle schools and high schools. But if you're not, then we could do the webinar, and then every year, this is my dream, do a webinar, a lot of women getting healing underground, and then we do a big celebration once a year. And it's just about celebrating you, so you don't have to tell your spouse yet, or if you are, great, bring him or her along. But it's more like, let's celebrate that you've come along. You don't have to be fully healed. If you're one step closer, then let's celebrate that.
Now, this book, how did it come about? Was it because, like you mentioned, you were like, what's the next step for these people? Or because también de cierta manera a lo mejor te lo pedían, like, what do I do now? Or was it more
they would literally say, like, okay, what do I do now, Rosie? I watched La Serie because Mariposa de Barrio, we dealt with it head on. And then the book, like, Rosie, what do I do? Like, I see you, but I don't know how you got there. I need to know specifically how you forgave. I need to know specifically how you told Abel and how you deal with it. So I was like, I can't answer every email. This is just my answer to basically all of your emails.
Now, I have a question. As most of us know, you're Christian and you preach as well as give conferences and stuff like that. But would you say that you included any of that as part of the healing process, or did you try to separate that, or
it's all
because it was part of the way you healed, the part of your process?
It's all that I know. Get me? I did great counseling, and I talk about that in there. I've called hotlines. I'm like you, so I tried everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then for me it was just Christ, and it's the word. So I even specifically gave you the Bible verses that helped me, why they helped me, like I break it down, and then sometimes I'll give you a challenge, like, okay, now it's your turn. If you've never told your story, write it down. And then burn it if you want, just get it out of you. But then other times I'm like, because it can get heavy emotionally, I just pray for you. Like, this is my prayer. This is what I remember I prayed for. I prayed over your life, and then just let the book go for a couple days and come back to it later. So God is all over it, because for me, there is no other answer, so he's all in this book.
It's going to be part of your conferences now, where you're going to be talking about that?
Full blown. Like, with everything that's happening in Hollywood, with all the movements, with everyone opening up, coming out, everything. I think I know it's happening in Latino culture.
Mhm.
Like, you know, where are we going to start speaking about it? It happens in every culture. Una no es más que otra. Like, we're not worse than anyone else. I just know that it happens in our culture and people haven't stepped up to talk about it yet. So if the world isn't doing it yet, you know, I'm gonna do it. Mm-hmm. So this is gonna be it. It's speaking about God, but it's internal healing. I need our people to be internally healed, because if you don't deal with it, time isn't gonna heal it. I think they said in James from Leaving Neverland said, time doesn't heal, it only makes this one worse. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
Now, speaking about you and public speaking, were you always that comfortable with public speaking?
No, I am the most antisocial, weird human ever. I used to be, you know, very social when I was a kid. I grew up with 4 brothers and a sister, but after the sexual abuse happened, I just shut down. Like, my parents didn't know what was wrong with me. And then at 25, you know, I gave my life to the Lord. He saved me, he healed me, and just something woke up to where when you know you have something good, you want to share it. Mm-hmm. Ya sea fruta, una película, mm-hmm. something. And I felt like I have something, I want to give it to you. So then your shyness goes away when you're mm-hmm. filled with passion and purpose. So that happened at 25.
And you love it now.
That's all I do. It's what I love to do. It's what I live to do. It's my passion became my purpose. And I dream of having like huge conferences at Staples Center, you know, for free. Like, because it's already hard to deal with this issue. I just hopefully, you know, women step up and say, I'm going to go get some help.
Thank you so much for the interview. It was great. So thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.